Stop. Let no prisoner leave the throne of righteousness for this review of The Gods of Mars, number 2 in the Barsoomian series by Edgar Rice Burroughs, great pulp fiction writer. This particular installment was first serialized in 1913 and then published as a book in 1918. It's kind of the examples of kind of pulp fiction, of pulp science fantasy fiction. I have a review of The Princess of Mars down below. This is all inspired, all a part of my little part of Marsathon, which is being hosted by Pints and Paperback, Steve Donoghue, The Book Invasion, Paperback Junkie, and Richardson Reads. And indeed, I'm going to get this review up of The Gods of Mars because they're going to be having a live discussion about the novel at about 5:30 somebody's time. Who knows? They're all spread across the continent of North America. So who knows when that is? But I'll try and get this review up before then. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna really jump into this. John Carter has been to Mars once, had great adventures, fallen unconscious because the planet was running out of air. Oh my God, is everyone dead? Is everyone dead? Well, there's 10 more novels to go, so we'll see. This one opens again with a frame story with Edgar Rice Burroughs, the character who and his uncle, the guy he calls uncle, is John Carter of Virginia. So yes, this opens I think it's 12 years later, and he's Edgar Rice Burroughs of the last book had laid his uncle back to rest in a mausoleum which opened from the inside. And sure enough, 12 years later, he gets a message from John Carter saying, come to this hotel. And he comes to the hotel, and sure enough, there's John Carter, and he's got this manuscript to give to him. And he's off for more adventures, but Edgar Rice Burroughs is gonna slowly publish all the stories of John Carter. So this one opens with John Carter. He has apparently now got the ability to transport himself at will. He is able to actually transport himself back to Mars. Unfortunately, he materializes in the Valley of Dor, which is the one place on the planet of Mars that you can't return from. All the Barsoomians think that this is the afterlife. You go down here, you don't come back. This is their version of heaven. He comes there, and at first because he doesn't recognize it, he's like, oh my God, am I on Mars? Did I go to the wrong planet? But he can jump around, so he discovers that he can. Like the last novel, we get all these wonderful creations, starting off with the plant men, which is what he discovers there. Its hairless body was a strange and ghoulish blue, except for a broad band of white which encircled its protruding single eye, an eye that was all dead white, pupil, iris, and ball. Its nose was a ragged, inflamed, circular hole in the center of its blank face, a hole that resembled more closely nothing that I could think of other than a fresh bullet wound, which has not yet commenced to bleed. This is, I think, one of the great skills of Edgar Rice Burroughs, is he's able to kind of create all these kind of freakish creatures and also fast adventures. These novels are paced rather well, even if they are maybe a slightly on the repetitive side. So he's in the Valley of Dor, but who should come floating down the thing but Tars Tarkas and a bunch of other folk. But Tars Tarkas is the only one who survives the onslaught of the plant men. And in this world, he finds out that it's the white Therns, the white Martians who are the Therns, seem to hold control here, and they've been snowing everybody above them about that this is the afterlife going down the Valley Door. In fact, actually, you come down, you take the pilgrimage down the river, and you're either slaughtered or enslaved, which is indeed what has happened to many of the creatures, and they get caught by the Therns and imprisoned. They meet a red Martian slave girl, Thuvia, who is she's good with the Banths, which are these 10-legged, befanged, kind of lion monsters. she kind of learns the lay of the land, that the Therns are kind of very cynically just sort of exploiting those above, feeding them false information that, and benefiting off that. And indeed, they enslave people and they also eat people, which is, particularly gross because they see them as just the lower order. However, they're able to escape because they're attacked by these black Martian pirates who call themselves the Firstborn. The battle their way onto a ship, capture one and they actually also rescue another princess. This one, Fedor, a cruel white Martian princess who's like, just toss Zodar, the final black Martian, over the side. But John Carter is a very honorable man. It's like, no, I won't murder. And indeed, that comes in very handy. He is rewarded for that. And Zodar reveals quite a bit to them, smiling cruelly at Fedor, who is such a kind of haughty and just arrogant white Thern, telling them, actually, we are the Firstborn. We are literally descended from direct lineage from the tree of life, from which everyone has sprang. Basically, this tree of life which flourished in the center of the Valley of Dor 23 million years ago, and there was evolution. And ages passed. Many forms of life came and went upon the tree of life, but still all were attached to the parent plant by stems of varying length. At length, the fruit tree consisted in tiny plant men, such as we now see reproduced in such huge dimensions in the Valley of Dor, but still hanging to the limbs and branches of the tree by the stems which grew from the top of their heads. The buds from which the plant men blossomed resembled large nuts about a foot in diameter, divided by double partition walls into 4 sections. In one section grew the plant men, in another a 6-legged worm, in the third the progenitor of the white ape, and in the fourth the primeval black man of Barsoom. And indeed, it seems that the 16-legged worm is where most of the animal life comes from. We do see white apes around the thing, and the primeval black man of Barsoom, which is why they call themselves the Firstborn. We were the first men. And he says, the Therns, Exoder says, he smiled maliciously as he spoke, obviously talking to Fedor, are but the results of ages of evolution from the pure white ape of antiquity. They are a lower order still. But there is one race of true and immortal humans on Barsoom. It is the race of the black men, which is interesting because we're mixing a little bit there of Darwinian evolution and the kind of the popular thing of, we're a monkey's uncle, we're descended from apes, or at least our human beings are a kind of another ape form that has evolved, and our closest cousins are the apes that we have now. So yes, and it turns out that while the Therns have been snowing everybody else, they get recaptured by the Firstborn and taken the Firstborn, who are reputed to live on a moon of Mars, but don't actually. They actually end up living down underground into the well, they're on the coast of the sea, but they're down in the in the earth. It's kind of a hollow earth idea, which is a thing in its a whole genre in itself. Of there's a hidden world down below, and this hidden world down below, there is a great Martian sea, actual water. And it turns out the Firstborn have been snowing the Therns and saying, oh, your heaven is you come down this way. But it turns out that no, down this way is just more enslavement and more butchery. The Firstborn have they raid the Therns for their women, which we get into the kind of the racial politics of things. We have black men stealing women. And eating them, and probably other things as well. So we get the wonderful kind of politics of that. So they're taken down and taken to Isis, who's the goddess. And the Therns, the white Therns, have said, Isis is our goddess. But it turns out it's an old black woman who has been very cynically exploiting them. They having little outposts to kind of dictate to them, but it's making them think it's divine revelation, but no, it's actually just more deception. And so they get down there. they meet this fine fellow. They like the cut. John Carter likes the cut of his jib. He's a kind of a light red-skinned fellow, very strong. He's almost got John Carter powers. It's like, oh, who is this guy? And we go through, kid you not, like 4 chapters at least before they finally exchange names and figure out, maybe we know each other through somebody else. Maybe we know through somewhere else. It's got to be a total example of the kind of the lovely pulp pulling of. We're gonna yank your chain. We're gonna play with you. This comes up later, but we finally learn that this young fellow's named Catharsis. Catharsis. His name might give you a hint. But yes, so they escape. They escape again. After all this, they're able to get out. They make it back to the surface. Unfortunately, they run into. It turns out that Tars Tarkus and Thuvia have had a tussle with some rival green Martians, but that's kind of settled. They're rescued by the Helium fleet. John Carter is finally going to get reunited with his lost love, Deja Thoris. But Deja Thoris is gone. She apparently has taken the pilgrimage. Oh my God, she's gone to the Valley of Dor. She's down. She's gotten taken down to the goddess Isis, and where she enslaves the prisoners for a single year, and the maidens for a year. And at which point they are slaughtered in savage games, and then eaten by the savages, eaten by the Firstborn. I said savages because this, all this cannibalism, it's, cannibals and savages does seem to go together, even though that they are actually holding themselves up as gods. They think of themselves, these are the gods of Mars. They're the very false gods of Mars. And so, John Carter has a time of imprisonment due to kind of stuff with the Zat Eris, a rival Helium guy, but they finally get themselves on their way, battle their way through, get to the thing, and it's like, oh my God, all the women that love John Carter get imprisoned and are they gonna live? Stay tuned for next time. He totally does. I laughed at that. It's like I was frustrated with the whole kind of like, oh, who is this Catharsis guy? Who is he? It's like, we know who he is. It's so obvious. Just tell us. Come on. And he just goes chapter after chapter. But at the end, when there's a cliffhanger, I just like, okay, this is one of these serials. Tune in next time, folks, to find out if Deja Thoris lives. It's like, okay. It's like it is great pulpy fun storytelling. And I mean I like as like with the Princess of Mars, I like the interesting themes. There's the whole thing of basically kind of false religions using that to exploit other people, and interestingly having like the Therns are exploiting all the Barsoomians and that, but the Firstborn are exploiting the Therns and also eating them. It's like there's this it's just this it's a kind of a it's deception upon deception kind of thing. You might be. I am, of course. I'm someone who is an atheist, so I might take that as a complete refutation of religion, or you might just take it as a criticism of organized religion. There is in some ways that because they talk about is it the Therns or the Firstborn having little temples all dotted out throughout the world, disseminating their deception, which makes me kind of think of other kind of world religions. Probably, I'm thinking mostly of like Catholicism at this point, because I'm reading the novel, the Thomas Cromwell novels of Hilary Mantel at the moment, which is very much about the rejection of the Catholic Church's kind of domination, and they're saying we hold the truth and we will tell you what's true, and we want to keep you ignorant. At least that is most definitely the viewpoint of Thomas Cromwell. I'm not putting down Catholicism any more than I'm putting down any other religion. But yeah, so that comes to mind with that. But I mean, I can't help but think that, well, maybe you're just saying it's all turtles all the way down, as Terry Pratchett would say, and there's no foundation here. There is no ultimate deity, no ultimate god of Mars, or god in general. Uh, the guys over at Plots and Paperback, Pints and Paperback, Plots and Paperback, Pints and Paperback was saying, like, wow, John Carter has come to this planet and totally disrupted the kind of the social system in the first novel, but now he's like destroyed religion in this novel, which is kind of interesting. We'll see if there's widespread disaffection, and everyone falls into kind of a decadent atheistic ruin due to the events of this novel. I think we're probably not supposed to dwell on it that much. So I think, again, lots of fun. You're not going to this for you're going to this for pulpy, joyous escapism, which in this month of April in 2020 was definitely just the ticket. Something that I kind of leaned on more on than some of my more serious reading. It was a lot of fun to read this novel. All right, I've babbled far enough. I will stop. I will try and chop this down, and then I will post it rapidly so I can then actually I won't get to see the live discussion because I'm off to work, but we'll go from there. All right, more videos later.